Hey, so today I'm going to take you through the basics of Ableton Simpler, which is a simpler version of Sampler in some sort of weird way like that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to take you through is there are three different modes to Simpler. So the first one I'm going to take you through is Classic, this one here. So when you play this, when you use Classic, the thing that defines it is the fact that when you press a note, the section of your sample will play until you press another note. So it'll keep playing out until either your crop section is reached, your sample reaches an end, or you press another note. So what I've done is I've already loaded in some samples I have. A couple are from two jazz tracks I recorded late last year. And one of them is just one of Ableton's drum racks, just because I needed some percussive sounds. So this first one I'm using here in Classic, if I show you what happens here, if I press a key, that's a bit low, hang on. So it's not in the correct pitch at the moment. So what Classic mode does is it speeds up or slows down depending on the pitch of the note you press. So if you press a higher note, it's going to play back that sample faster. So if I show you that, which can sound really cool. Or if you play a lower one, it will sound really awkward and strange. So that's the basis of how that works and how it warps audio in regards to pitch and speed. There are a couple of things you can do with Classic mode. So you'll see this little orange section that I have going on here. That's your loop, and that's your loop length, these two parameters here. So in Simpler, loop is basically sustain. So when you play a note that has a loop, it will get to that point and it will just sustain on that point. So I'm just going to move over to this track over here because I think my loop section's better. Again, it's the same track, it's just a different section with a better loop for your sustain. For this, I have the loop. You can change the loop size, do that, and loop length decides where in the track it sits. So you can move it to the start. You can loop the start or have it at the end, which I'm going to keep it at now. So I'll show you how that sounds. Ooh, probably should move up the octave again. Okay, it doesn't actually sound that good, but you can understand with a certain sound which has the proper sustain, that would sound right. But just for this vocal sound, it's not completely right, but the concept is the same. And you can turn loop on and off over here. Yeah, okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is One Shot with this track over here, which is another bit of jazz instrumentalism. So to get this sort of actual sample bit up where I had it before with these tracks, it's just this little button here to toggle on and off next to the track name. So that just allows you to have your sample up on one window and your sort of filters and stuff down below that. So yeah, also the thing about Simpler is it has all the same sort of parameters that Sampler has. You've got your filters, you've got your LFO, stuff like that, envelopes. Yeah, so same sort of parameters. I'm not going to show you how to use them, but the basic principles are the same between every bit of software in that regard. So what I have here is we're in one-shot mode. So one-shot means that when you trigger, it will play to the end of your sample. So if I show you that now. So whenever you press a MIDI note, it's going to play right through to the end of your crop section. That's one of the main things about shot mode. But with shot mode, you have some different sort of warping techniques. So when you're playing around with it, so right now I have warping off, so I'm just going to engage it over here with this button over here. Actually, I'm just going to bring this back down to here because I find it makes a bit more sense. Although it's a lot smaller, so actually I'm going to put it back up there. So right now we're doing it in beats, so the speed and pitch warping is done based on the beats rather than other parameters, so we can have a look at some of the different ones here. So you can tell there's some different tone difference there. So repitch is one of the interesting ones because it keeps things at generally around the same pitch, but it actually only just speeds up the performance. So it tries to repitch it back down to the original pitch, but it only changes the speed. So that's one of the really cool things that you can do with shot mode. The other thing that you can do always is your fade ins and fade outs. So at the moment, so you can have a fade in. I'm gonna make these really large just so it's really obvious. So you can see it takes a little while to reach up to its full amplitude, and it fades right on back down again. So that's another cool thing about shot mode. So the final mode I want to show you is slice mode. Now I really like this one. Slice mode is really kind of cool and fun. So what I've done is I've loaded in just one of Ableton's base sort of drum loops, and when you have slice mode on, slice mode detects transients. So it's again like a bit like a beat detective, but not quite, because it detects the transients and it sets it to a MIDI key note. So you can play each transient as a key. So how about I record enable the right track, and I don't actually know how to get that to stop. I really should, but I don't. Just mute that there though. So when I play any keys on my MIDI keyboard, helps if I'm in the right octave. You can move up and down your MIDI keyboard, because I use my computer's keyboard rather than an external MIDI controller. So for a while there, I had a lot of difficulties trying to play anything that was not in like that first sort of like C3 scale. To move up and down, use your X and Z keys on your keyboard, which I figured I should have known, but just that's really helpful. So now when I press keys on my keyboard, I can trigger drum samples, which is really cool. So for simpler, when it's in slice mode, automatically puts in each of your transient markers. But to put some in of your own, you just double click, and to remove one, you can also double click. So it's pretty simple to do that. You can also change your sensitivity. So right now, I'm pretty okay with the sensitivity of what this is, but what I can do is with this sensitivity here, and it's 100%, I can dial that down and see how some get grayed out. So they won't play now, because they're not considered new transients anymore because the sensitivity's been turned down. So it's just perfect for tuning, which transients you want to capture and which ones you don't. The other awesome thing you can do with slice mode is that you can turn this right here into a drum rack really easily. So all you have to do is right click on the track, and then you can choose slice to drum rack, and that's going to change everything you have here in sampler, and it's going to turn it into a drum rack like easy as that. And now I have a drum rack based off that sample that I just created in, well, not created, but loaded into Simpler. So there is one more other thing I have to do before I get to finish up here. So right now I have it so I can play 6 voices at once. You can adjust that down here up to 32. That's just how many notes you can play at one time. So that won't let me play more than one, whereas this can let me play up to 6. It's pretty simple like that. It's just, yeah. So if you're only being able to play one note at one time, you have that right there, which can help. And right now, yeah, sorry, I thought I was about to cover something that I'd already done before, so I was just like, oh, whoops. Okay, cool. Okay, you know that thing that I thought I'd talked about but I hadn't talked about? I actually hadn't talked about. So here in your playback, I have it set on poly. You can have poly, mono, or 3. I'm only going to talk about mono and poly for the moment. Mono only lets you play one note at a time, so it's pretty much the same as just having it to one voice. When you set it to poly, that allows you to play more than one, trigger more than one note at the same time. I thought I talked about that, but I actually hadn't. So, yeah, just covering that there. Sweet, thanks, bye.